Behind the scenes of one of TV's most beloved shows, tension brewed, and no one saw it coming. For years, fans wondered why the feud between him and Gary Burghoff ran so deep. Now, the truth is, finally, and it changes everything. Gary Burghoff didn't just play Radar O'Reilly, he was Radar, with his boyish charm, ever-present teddy bear, and that lovable mix of shyness and smarts. Burghoff brought warmth and innocence to a show that tackled the brutality of war with both humor and heart. But behind Radar's gentle eyes, tensions were brewing. Tensions that would lead one cast member to despise it. And that's just the beginning. New television series have etched themselves into American pop culture, like MASH. Running from 1972 to 1983, the show was a genre-defying masterpiece, seamlessly weaving slapstick with sorrow, satire with soul. Its finale drew over 100 million viewers, a record still unbeaten in scripted television. But while MASH's popularity is legendary, the stories behind the scenes are far more complex, surprising, and even a bit scandalous. Today, we're peeling back the curtain, from little-known production secrets to explosive cast conflicts, including who couldn't stand Gary Burghoff. We're diving into the untold truths of one of TV's greatest triumphs. Most fans of MASH don't realize the series had literary roots. The show was adapted from the 1968 novel MASH, a novel about three army doctors penned by Dr. H. Richard Hornberger under the alias Richard Hooker, with co-author W.C. Hines. Hornberger was no armchair novelist. He'd served as a surgeon during the Korean War, and his book dripped with dark humor, biting satire, and grim authenticity. His real-life experiences in mobile army surgical hospitals, the chaos, the gallows humor, the impossible decisions, became the backbone of MASH. The book's success inspired a film, and eventually the TV series that would redefine the sitcom genre forever. What made the show so revolutionary wasn't just the setting, it was how it dared to be funny while telling the truth about war. When CBS needed a writer for the MASH pilot, they turned to Larry Gelbart, a comedic powerhouse known for his work with Sid Caesar and later for creating Tootsie. But Gelbart had grown disillusioned with Hollywood's grind and relocated to London to escape it all. Then came the call. Would he write the pilot for a wartime dramedy? Tempted by the challenge and the potential, Gelbart agreed. What happened next was nothing short of remarkable. He wrote the entire pilot in just 2 days. The network was so impressed they paid him $25,000, a massive sum at the time. More importantly, that pilot would set the tone for a new kind of television. Sharp, satirical, and deeply human. The casting process for MASH was anything but smooth. Blaine Stevenson, eventually known as Colonel Blake, actually wanted the role of Hawkeye Pierce, but the honor went to Alda, whose blend of wit and moral gravitas made the character unforgettable. Meanwhile, comedian Robert Klein turned down the role of Trapper John, paving the way for Wayne Rogers. Here's where it gets interesting. Rogers never signed a formal contract. That meant he could walk away from the series at any time, and after 3 seasons, he did just that, citing frustration over Alda's increasing dominance in the script. This kind of behind-the-scenes tension shaped the show's early seasons, giving it a raw energy and unpredictable chemistry that helped MASH feel alive, like a real, messy, human play. Corporal Maxwell Q. Klinger, part-time nurse, full-time schemer, was never supposed to be a regular character. Originally planned for a one-off gag, Klinger was inspired by a Lenny Bruce bit about dodging military service by feigning homosexuality. CBS wasn't ready for that kind of controversy. Instead, they reinvented Klinger as a straight man who wore women's clothing in a desperate bid for a Section 8 discharge. The result? Comedy gold, and something more. Thanks to Jamie Farr's brilliant, heartfelt performance, Klinger became a fan favorite. Could have been a cheap joke, evolved into a complex portrait of resilience. Under the wigs and wedding dresses was a soldier fighting for dignity in the only way he knew how. Both Alan Alda and Jamie Farr brought more than talent to MASH. They brought experience. Alda had served 6 months in Korea as part of the US Army Reserve, giving him first-hand insight in the military. His portrayal of Hawkeye wasn't just acting, it was remembering. The sarcasm, the weariness, the need to laugh through the pain. It all rang true because he'd lived. Farr also served in the military, and it showed. His Klinger wasn't just a clown, he was a survivor. Through comedy, he revealed the absurd lengths soldiers would go to preserve their identity in a system that tried to erase it. This real-life background lent MASH a layer of emotional truth most sitcoms couldn't touch. In the early days of MASH, there was one creative decision that sparked more debate than almost any other. The laugh track. Pilot writer Larry Gelbart and executive producer Gene Reynolds were staunchly against. They believed the emotional depth and realism of MASH, with its scenes of blood, surgery, and human loss would be undercut by the artificial intrusion of canned laughter. The war wasn't funny, and neither were most of the situations the doctors found themselves in. CBS had other ideas. At the time, a laugh track was practically mandatory for 30-minute sitcom. It was part of the formula, a safety net to let audiences know when to chuckle. CBS insisted. What followed was a tense compromise. The laugh track could stay, but not during operating room scenes. These moments, drenched in blood and anxiety, would be left untouched by laugh. As the series matured and earned critical acclaim, the laugh track was used less and less. Until finally, in the show's 11th and final season, it disappeared altogether. In the UK, MASH aired on the BBC without any laugh track at all, allowing the blend of comedy and tragedy to stand on its own. For many fans, it was the purest way to experience the show, as it was meant to be. MASH wasn't just a hit with audiences, it was a magnet for incredible guest stars. Over the years, the 4077 saw appearances from future legends and screen icons. Our young Ron Howard, fresh off the Andy Griffith Show, played a naive Marine desperate to enlist, giving a heart-wrenching portrayal of youthful patriotism and the loss of innocence. Leslie Nielsen, long before he became the king of deadpan comedy in Airplane and The Naked Gun, showed off his dramatic chops in a serious role. And Patrick Swayze, before Dirty Dancing or Ghost, played a soldier confronting a terminal illness. A performance that quietly stunned audiences with its depth and fragility. But the real magic wasn't just in guest appearances, it was in the personal touches that blurred the line between fiction and reality. Take B.J. Honeycutt, the gentle family man portrayed by Mike Farrell, in a quiet tribute to his own daughter. Farrell named B.J.'s child Eric, same name as his real-life little girl. That connection gave his scenes of fatherhood an extra layer of tenderness. And then there's Colonel Potter, a framed photo of his beloved wife Mildred on his desk. That wasn't a prop. It was a real photo of actor Harry Morgan's actual Eileen. A small detail, but one that grounded the character in a very real kind of love. Even a show as beloved as MASH wasn't immune to backstage drama, and much of it came down to the scripts. The cast, dedicated and opinionated, often pushed back on the right. Lines were challenged, scenes were questioned, rewrites were requested. Eventually, the writers had enough. In a legendary act of passive-aggressive brilliance, the writing team, including Ken Levine, crafted scenes that required the actors to wear full winter parka while filming on the Malibu ranch in the middle of a scorching California summer. With temperatures soaring above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, the actors had no choice but to sweat it out in heavy coats, mittens, and wool hats, all while delivering dialogue. It was uncomfortable, it was miserable, it was a message. After that, script complaints dropped significantly. Alan Alda, a stickler for continuity and meaning, made a subtle but powerful choice when stepping into the role of Hawkeye Pierce. In the show's opening credits, and throughout the series, you'll spot him wearing a distinctive hat. That very hat originally belonged to Donald Sutherland, who portrayed Hawkeye in the 1970 MASH film. It wasn't just a nod to his cinematic predecessor, it was Alda's way of honoring the character's roots while carrying the legacy forward. And then there's the teddy bear. Radar O'Reilly's small, threadbare bear seemed like just a prop at first, but over time it became something more, a symbol of Radar's innocence, of childhood clinging to life in the middle of chaos. After the show ended, the bear mysteriously vanished. Fans speculated for years about its fate. Was it stored away, destroyed, forgotten? Then, in a surprising twist, the teddy bear resurfaced decades later and was auctioned off to none other than Gary Burghoff, Radar himself. It was a full circle moment, one of the most iconic props in TV history, returning home to the man who gave it meaning. During MASH's 6th season, the writer snuck in a playful tribute to their favorite pastime, baseball. 4 Marine patients were named after real-life members of the 1977 California Angel. The next year, they repeated the trick, this time borrowing names from the 1978 Los Angeles Dodgers. These subtle Easter eggs served as a private joke for sports-savvy fans and showcased the writing team's flair for blending pop culture with creative storytelling. But the tributes didn't stop there. In the emotional episode Goodbye Radar, Radar O'Reilly's girlfriend is named Patty Hay, a heartfelt nod to writer Ken Levine's former girlfriend. That small detail, a personal story woven into the fabric of a fictional war zone. And there's more where that came from. In the season 1 episode Tuttle, we catch Radar indulging in his beloved comic books. But one issue stands out, literally. He's reading Captain Savage and his Battlefield Rangers number 10, a Marvel comic that wasn't published until 1969. More than a decade after the Korean War ended, And that's not the only anachronism. In the season 11 episode Give and Take, Klinger gives a North Korean soldier a chocolate bar in a moving act of kindness. It's a touching moment until you spot the glaring slip, a UPC barcode on the package. Those didn't even exist until 1976. These tiny missteps are amusing reminders that even the most carefully crafted period dramas sometimes get tripped up by the modern world sneaking in through the props department. The Korean War lasted 3 years, 1 month and 2 days. MASH*. It aired for 11 seasons. That's nearly 4 times longer than the war itself. But the show's creators never saw this as a problem. Instead, they embraced the extended run as an opportunity to explore the deeper, lasting consequences of war. With each season, the series evolved from a war comedy to a cultural touchstone, tackling everything from trauma to moral conflict, often reflecting the real-world tensions of Vietnam and Cold War America. Alda, the heart and soul of the series, helped guide this transformation. His vision, along with the rest of the team, allowed MASH to transcend its setting and become something great, meditation on humanity in the face of chaos. Season 10's premiere episode, That's Showbiz, features an ironic production blunder, fitting given its showbiz theme. In one wide shot, as Father Mulcahy says an emotional goodbye, several T marks used to guide actors' positions are clearly visible on the ground. These markers, meant to be hidden from the audience, sneak into the frame. One white, one black, breaking the illusion of reality. It's a rare peek behind the curtain and a charming reminder that even the most polished productions sometimes forget to sweep up their technical secret. Alda did far more than bring a Hawkeye Pierce to life. He wrote and directed 31 episodes, including the unforgettable series finale. His behind-the-scenes involvement was groundbreaking and earned him Emmy Awards for acting, writing, and directing. He was the first person to win all 3 categories for the same show. Alda shaped MASH's emotional tone and narrative direction, balancing irreverent humor with gut-punch drama. He championed complex stories about morality, loss, and the human condition. And his influence was so profound, the show bore his signature in every frame. Season 10's Communication Breakdown is about miscommunication at the 4077. But the real miscue happened off-screen. In one scene, as characters crowd around a rare newspaper, an unmistakably out-of-place figure walks into frame. A man with long blonde hair, a blue shirt and white pants, definitely not military attire, strolls into the background. He's clearly a crew member who wandered into the shop, providing an unintentional but hilarious break in the show's 1950s illusion. Sometimes, even the best productions can't stop reality from crashing the party. The series finale, Goodbye, Farewell and Amen, aired on February 28, 1983, and shattered records. It was watched by over 105 million people, or 77% of the US television audience at the time. That's more than the Super Bowl that same year. Advertisers shelled out $450,000 for a 30-second commercial, 15 times the regular rate. But the finale wasn't just a ratings juggernaut, it was a cultural moment. It offered closure, heartbreak, and hope in a single emotionally charged event, capping off 11 seasons with the kind of impact few shows have ever achieved. In one intense surgical scene, Hawkeye finishes operating, only to be summoned to another patient by Frank Burns. Without hesitation, and without washing his bloody hands, he plunges them into a second patient's abdomen. Even for a fictional series, this glaring breach of surgical protocol stood out. For a show that prided itself on respecting wartime medicine, this moment was a surprising laugh. Thankfully, nobody was harmed. It was just a reminder that even the most respected shows occasionally sacrifice realism for the sake of storytelling momentum. MASH's popularity led to 3 spin-offs, each with varying success. Trapper John, MD, 1979 to 1986, followed Trapper John years later in a civilian hospital. Interestingly, Wayne Rogers didn't reprise his role, but the show found an audience of its own. After MASH featured Colonel Potter, Father Mulcahy, and Klinger adjusting to post-war life in a veterans hospital. Despite high hopes, it struggled in ratings and was cancelled after 2 seasons. Then came Walter, a TV movie following Radar's life as a police officer after returning home. It only aired once in limited markets and quickly faded into obscurity. None matched the original's brilliance, but they revealed just how deeply audiences had connected with the characters of the 4077. In the second to last episode of MASH, titled As Time Goes By, the characters gathered to bury a time capsule beneath the Fox Ranch set. It was a symbolic moment, one filled with hope, nostalgia, and a nod to the show's enduring legacy. But here's where fiction blurred into reality. Just 2 months after filming Wrapped, the land was sold. During construction on the site, a worker stumbled upon something unexpected, the very same time capsule buried for the episode. First, he wasn't sure what to make of it. Recognizing its potential significance, he reached out to none other than Alda for guidance. Alda's response? He suggested the worker keep it, understanding that while it was a piece of television history, it had found a new home. Still, Alda later remarked with amusement that the worker didn't seem particularly impressed by the find. Fans discovering such an artifact would be thrilling. It wasn't just a prop. It was a tangible link to a series that had touched millions. A relic of laughter, heartbreak, and humanity tucked into the soil beneath a fake army camp, now unearthed in the real world. And now we come to the big reveal. These MASH stars utterly hated Gary Burghoff. Gary Burghoff, the actor behind the lovable and radar-eared Corporal O'Reilly, wasn't exactly a favorite among his co-stars. Tensions with Wayne Rogers, played Trapper John, were especially volatile. According to Raymond Straight's 1983 biography of Alda, things once got so heated on set that Rogers actually threw a chair at Burghoff during an argument. The clashes were rooted in professional differences and incompatible personalities, and they occasionally threatened to disrupt the harmony of the ensemble. Rogers wasn't alone. Lane Stevenson, who portrayed the affable Colonel Henry Blake, had what he called a love-hate relationship with Burghoff. In his words, sometimes I was a problem for him, and he sometimes was a problem for me. It was the frank, if diplomatic way of admitting their working relationship had rough patches, despite mutual respect for each other's talent. But the most surprising conflict may have been with Alda himself. Alda, the heart of the show both on and off screen, reportedly had frequent friction with Burghoff. While Alda was deeply involved in the show's creative direction, Burghoff often felt underappreciated, both in terms of recognition and input. That resentment reportedly grew over time, sometimes spilling into sharp exchanges and icy interactions. Despite the behind-the-scenes tension, the cast always kept it professional in front of the camera. But these personal conflicts serve as a stark reminder. Even the most beloved TV families aren't immune to real-life drama. Underneath the laughs and tears of MASH was a pressure cooker environment, where creative passion, personal pride, and strong personalities sometimes collide. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of MASH, consider liking the video, dropping a comment, and subscribing so you don't miss future uploads. And don't go just yet. Click the video you see on your screen now. It's truly unbelievable.